We're going to talk about the definite direct object marker now, which I'll often abbreviate as DOM, direct object marker. So this is something that you are already quite familiar with. You've encountered it in a variety of different contexts. You've heard it a bunch of times and you've said it a bunch of times, but you may not understand or know that you have said it or what function it has in the sentence. So the definite direct object marker is a very helpful description. It's not an imaginative term, it's a very descriptive term, as most, well, not all grammatical terms are very descriptive, but this one is. So the direct object marker is precisely that. It's a marker that points to the direct object. The marker is the word et, which is aleph, tav, and it usually has a segol, et, and it will often have one of the dashes. I think it's called a makef, but I don't remember exactly. So et. In certain situations, for instance, if et has a suffix attached to it, this et will, in most conjugations, turn to ot. But usually it's et with a dash. Now, you know this word from ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol bechol bechol, right? So what is the et doing? Well, it's a word that is impossible to translate. It doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't carry meaning in terms of a specific word that it would be translated into, or even a group of words that had some sort of semantic range. Rather, it's merely a sign. It's a sign that points you towards something. So it's a word that has a sign that points to a grammatical function. And that's really important to remember, that you cannot translate this word into any word in English or any other language, or even in Hebrew. It doesn't have a meaning. It doesn't associate to an English word. It's an element of the Hebrew language that is completely foreign to the English language. It serves merely a grammatical function. Interesting side note, when Ben Yehuda was reviving the Hebrew language, which is now modern Hebrew, he used the Tanakh, the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, as well as the Mishnah and the Talmud and other sources, but he used the Bible to recreate modern Hebrew, which is one of the reasons why modern and biblical Hebrew are actually quite similar to each other. More similar than you would guess, being separated by 2,500 to 3,000 years. However, there was a conversation that he had with others who he was working with about whether or not to keep et in modern Hebrew, because it was untranslatable. It only served a grammatical function. And so, does it make sense to keep it or not? And they ended up keeping it, so modern Hebrew does have et. But that gives you a sense, a sort of window into how helpful or necessary or, this is, some people consider it or considered it a throwaway word because it's untranslatable. So bear that in mind. But you'll recall that the word for letter, right, like all of these letters, the letters of the alphabet, the word is ot, right? Ot, otiot, letters. Well, the word ot, you'll recall from the Shema, is the word sign, right? Ukshartam, and you will bind them, ukshartam leot, as a sign, right? A sign. So the word ot is a sign, and a sign is something that points to something else. It isn't necessarily its own thing, but it's pointing you beyond itself to something else, something that it's assigned to or toward. So baptism and the Lord's Supper, right? Sacraments are signs and seals. They're signs that point to a deeper, larger, more mysterious reality that's at work in that moment that God is initiating. And so the act itself of baptism is pointing you elsewhere, right? The water is pointing, it's a sign of something else. And that's exactly what the et does. And et and ot are very similar, related forms. So et simply points you to the direct object in the sentence. So not every sentence will have the word et in it, sometimes because there isn't a direct object, or sometimes the direct object is assumed or is identified in other ways. But generally, et will be present to identify the direct object. And it is the word that is connected to et by the hyphen. That is the direct object. And, this is also important, it is the definite direct object marker. So if there is a word that is connected to the word et, it's definite. It may or may not have the definite article attached, but the word is definite. So sometimes you may have a direct object that's indefinite, in which case you will not have et, because this only points you to the definite direct object. Okay? So it will generally come after the verb. You'll remember from the word order of Hebrew sentences have a general word order that goes verb, subject, sometimes, if it's there, indirect object, and then the direct object. Well, usually then, the direct object will come at the end or later on in the sentence, and which is the case here. So this is the passage from Genesis 1. I think it's verse 3 or 4. I think it's 4. I can't remember. But let's read it here together. Vayar is from the root resh, aleph, hey. The hey has fallen off. It's disappeared in this verb form. This is a mesaper or vav consecutive. Vayar, this is a pa'al. And it's to see, right? You'll remember from when we enacted Genesis 1, Vayar Elohim ki tov. Right? That's a refrain that happens over and over and over throughout Genesis 1. So this is the first instance of that. Vayar Elohim, verb followed by subject. Elohim is the subject of the verb. Et. So you have the et, and then you know that the sentence is saying the next word is the direct object in this sentence. Okay? Vayar Elohim et haor. So, and God saw the thing that receives the action of the verb, so the thing that which is seen is the or, the light, right? And you see the definite article here, which, by the way, has a kametz instead of a patach followed by a dagesh forte, because the aleph rejects the dagesh forte. You'll remember the three signs of the definite article are hey, patach, dagesh forte in the following letter, while the aleph rejects the dagesh, and compensatory lengthening makes the patach lengthen to a kametz. So et haor, definite direct object marker. So, and God saw the light, ki tov, indeed good. Or as Ellen Davis translates it, which I think is quite nice, and God saw how good it was. How good it was. Or that indeed it was good. Or God saw that it was good. Okay, so when you encounter the word et, it's telling you the next word is the direct object. That's all it's saying. Well, it's also saying that it's definite. The object is definite. But That's it. It's pretty simple, and you've already said it in a whole bunch of words and phrases that you've either memorized or we said it all the time during the intensive. So this is now helping you just make sense of and categorize your knowledge, your sort of tacit knowledge of the direct object marker.